I'm B.A. Mofo.
I'm a Mofo. What's next step?
And you're watching?
And you're watching?
Rugby Wrap-Up.
What about Rugby Whistle? You're being Mofo. I'm watching Rugby Wacker.
I'm B.A. Mofo.
I'm being Mofo. You're watching Rugby Macker.
Wrap-Up.
Wrap-Up.
Coming up next on Rugby Wrap-Up, Major League Rugby talk with Seattle star Mathew Drew Turner, Steve Lewis, Bryan Ray, and Colby Marshall.
Rugby Wrap-Up brought to you in part by The Pig and Whistle, the world's best rugby pub, and Lean and Limber. Stretch your way to a healthier lifestyle.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Rugby Wrap-Up in Midtown Manhattan. Matt McCarthy and Steve Lewis, who's back in the studio, and we are talking Major League Rugby. Steve, we were just at the LA Sevens, and we'll get back to that later, but I wanted to welcome you home.
Thank you. Good to be back.
You look really good today.
It's been over a month.
It has been.
Between my travels to South America and what have you.
So maybe we can get through the show without punching each other in the face.
I think it's a good chance.
All right, and we don't have time to do any of that because we have a huge star making some noise in his car in Seattle, and that is Mathew Drew Turner. If you're going to talk Major League Rugby and LA Sevens, you got to bring up Matt Turner. Mathew, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Great to be back on the show.
We haven't had the three of us in a chat in a long time. Are you sitting in your car for a reason?
No, I'm just, life outside of rugby, driving around, doing daily things that need to be done.
Is the door open in the car? Do you have your seatbelt off? Because we can't have the department store bell going off the entire conversation, Matt.
No, I think we're good now.
Okay, all right. So anyway,
Seattle Seawolves car.
Stephen can shed some light on your terrific Sevens career he had, Steve.
Wasn't bad, A couple of tournaments for Tiger. Now, obviously, World Series legend.
Well, Tiger's the penultimate, whatever I'm trying to say.
Penultimate, yes.
Yeah.
But, no, obviously, great career in the World Series is Matt. He's also, obviously, as we know, playing for the Seawolves the last couple of years, fullback. And the distinct pleasure of having a small orange juice with him on Sunday afternoon. So it's twice in 48 hours. Great to see him again.
Interesting. Mathew, I know that you had Tiger rugby experience, but you also had the UCT Ike Tigers?
Yep, that's where it all started, back in Cape Town. It's where I first got the opportunity to play a decent level of rugby. Back home.
Just to clarify, ladies and gentlemen, he did play for England despite the fact that he's somewhat South African. Can you now play for South Africa having not played for England for a while in Sevens? Wasn't that a rule for a while?
I think I can, I know I can play for South Africa during the Olympic year. The Olympic rules are different to World Rugby rules. So I think to play for a country, you just need to be in the possession of a passport. Which I do have, the green mamba, as we call it.
Oh, look at this. Steve, we have breaking news. Matt Turner making a comeback and playing for the Blitzbach.
I don't know. I'm not sure they need him anymore. They had a pretty good weekend.
They did have a pretty good weekend.
Not sure they want a 32-year-old playing for them.
I'm going to lie about your age, too. Don't worry about it. It's all good. We got Photoshop, all of it. All right, let's talk Major League Rugby. A collective phew out of Seattle, Mathew.
It's a long season. Never nice going, 0-3 from the start of the season. But luckily we've got quite a lot of experience in our squad, and we'll start picking it up. And as we know, it doesn't matter where you finish in the league and the table, as long as you put yourself in a position to get into the final. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. It's now a 16-week season. You're absolutely right. As long as you qualify for the playoffs, it's actually more important having form and momentum coming into those final weeks, I would suggest. And yeah, it's a quarter of the way through, but 12 games to go.
Matt, let me ask you this, because I'm going to ask Bryan Ray and Steve this later. Is it possible for San Diego or Toronto to run the table?
Yeah, I don't see why not. They're great. They got both got great squads and are playing real good rugby. Again, playoff rugby is completely different to regular season. That's when the experience comes out when it matters. I'm expecting San Diego to probably, to be honest, barring us, I think they might go unbeaten this season in the West Conference.
What's going on with you guys now? So you guys are always pretty calm.
Yeah, everyone's positive. We finally played some decent rugby this weekend. We're fixing the areas that needed some working on, and simplifying a few things that we mentally made overcomplicated. We're just excited to have Utah come visit us this weekend, and again, give the fans and give them a show that we feel we can walk off the field and be, hey, we put a performance in.
To what do you attribute your slow start, the team's slow start this year? Do you see a rising standard of opposition, or maybe a little complacent, or just things not clicking the first 2-3 games?
Yeah, I think all three of those answers are pretty valid. We were a little bit complacent with coming into the season, and that happens when you go back to back. I know not many people can say they've come back to back, but it happened to us. But again, things weren't clicking. We've had a lot of injuries. A lot of the guys that we brought in to strengthen our squad, the foreigners, have unfortunately had bizarre injuries. And one of the things that we feel is with our squad is we're going to get stronger when those boys come back in the next 4 to 5 weeks. And then we'll have a nice run in with the playoffs in sight, hopefully.
So, Matt, there is no truth to the rumor that it was simply a case of you and Brock Stoller getting the butter off your fingers after dropping all those balls 2 weeks ago?
A slight change of diet and things have changed. So, it is, having Ben back this weekend has been a great boost for us. Having his kicking game in open play, putting us in the right areas of the field, that really enables us to, do the things that we do well in the right areas of the park.
Rugby World Cup, England versus South Africa. Who are you rooting for?
Obviously England.
Obviously England?
Obviously England, but unless Neil Power's listening, and remember, Neil, I've got a green passport, so...
Fair enough. Stephen, you got something for Matthew before we let him go?
Sure. Do you understand one single word out of Rickert Hatting's mouth?
No, it's quite interesting, though. I don't really understand what he says, but for us, he's adapted and he calls himself Rick now, not Rickard, because no one can say that. So we just call him Rick's American.
Yeah, I think we understand.
His American name is Rick.
Understand what he's trying to get at, but just can't understand a word.
And finally, what did you think of that PA announcer at the LA Sevens? Because I think your name was brought up when Daniel Norton scored a try.
Yeah, I feel sorry for them. You deal with what you dealt out there. No, it's obviously, the LA Sevens to me was great. The stadium was awesome. There's a good experience there around the stadium. I think, personally, I think it would be a great tournament to have male and female at from a crowd perspective, and it sort of shows you where the American rugby is with, hopefully rugby going NCAA now in the girls' world. I think that would be a huge boost for the Sevens in LA. But overall experience for me was, I'd return to LA far more times than I'll go to Vegas. That's for sure.
Oh, and there you have it. And on that note, we are out of time for this segment. But thank you, Mr. Mathew Drew Turner.
Not a problem. I'm here whenever you want me. And tune into our game this weekend and give us some feedback, please. You too.
All right, will do. Steve and I will be right back with Mr. Bryan Ray with more Major League Rugby right after this.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And we are back. Matt McCarthy and Steve Lewis with Mr. Bryan Ray calling in from Nova Scotia talking Major League Rugby. Bryan, welcome back.
It's good to be here again, hanging out with you strange New Yorkers.
Has
your heating failed?
Has the hot stove, the little...
Yeah. What's up with that cap, for God's sake?
Where are the snowshoes?
I can see that Jamaican hat there on the desk.
See?
I kind of wish I was down there right now. It's a little bit chillier up here.
Yep.
How many people asked you if that was a South African hat at the tournament?
Loads. But it's a great conversation starter.
Marketing issue, yeah. All right, well, we can't talk about that. We've got to go rapid fire through last week, and we want to start with San Diego and NOLA. 25-21, San Diego, and heartbreak for NOLA, Steve. Although they got J.P. Eloff back, they showed some grit, but a tough one.
I think you're starting to see some separation, right, at the top and at the bottom. And I think San Diego are the cream of the crop. Toronto pretty close to them. So for San Diego to go down there and eke out a win, not particularly surprised. I think they've got the goods in most parts of the field. So I wasn't surprised to see the scoreline, for sure.
Bryan, what caught your eye about this one? Was it Nanu crossing the whitewash twice?
No. I just think there's a bit of illness, I think, going around in NOLA's camp. They just looked short of energy in that second half, and they couldn't get out of their end at all. I mean, it was completely dominated by San Diego. So, I think one that NOLA probably wants to have back that second half, but, they'll get better. Obviously disappointing for them. That's their only meeting with them, but, that's how it rolls. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. They had Nanu and Duplessis come off with injury, San Diego, so we'll see if they're fit for this week.
Nolan Nate Osborne and New Orleans have been dealing with injuries, and they're getting their pieces back. They've kept it together. They could be a team to watch down the stretch once they're healthy. Next one up, in the Rocky Mountain Rumble, you had one of the teams, the winless teams in Colorado, hosting Utah. I picked Utah on this show, but in Super Brew, after I realized that Colorado was without a win, I was like, "There's no way they're going 0-4," and I picked them in that. But what was your take out of that? We got Rangers scoring.
Yeah, they needed to, like Seattle, they were a surprising 0-3, right? So I didn't get to pick, but I would have picked Colorado, and they got the first win. And that, it can be a psychological thing, and then confidence returns, and you can get on a bit of a roll. But they've got the talent there. They're not a 1-3 team. So, again, not surprised at the result.
Bryan, he didn't get to pick because he was off coaching Chile, or in Chile, the Jamaican Sevens team. That's the hat. But what did you take out of that one? The Rumble.
Yeah, I picked Colorado going in. I just think there's such a fire group. Luke White, that leader, is such an inspirational guy. There's no way he was going to let them go 0-4 with a home game. They defended really well. I thought that was a big thing for them. Obviously, having Ranger and Emerson back was a huge boost for them, and Malifa as well. Dan Power called that last week, that change at number 10. I thought that worked out for them, running the ball a bit more offensively. So great win for them.
You allow us to segue by picking by mentioning Dan Power, the admitted Gilgroniac, but his Gilgronis hosting Old Glory, and Old Glory won that one despite the fact that there was a very strong comeback from the AGs at the end. Stephen, what was your take on that?
Well, I think DC have been the surprise of the league thus far. Because, to be honest, going into the league, I thought they are a little deficient in certain areas across the field, but they have performed well, and they are 3-1. That's a win on the road. So credit to them. I think they've been a surprise package.
Bryan, a little bit ironic. The guys that are named after a drink are good in the second half.
Yeah, the game was over. 20 minutes. They're down 20-0, and they had to they did really well, to their credit, to get back in. Those frustrating Gilgronis. I thought they defended really, really well in that second half, and then just a few mistakes kind of cost them the game at the end. And I'll agree with Steve. Old Glory, a little bit of a surprise. I think their first 15 kind of, and then maybe their 23 is pretty solid. But we'll see what happens when they get injuries. I'm still a little cautious that they have the necessary depth to really get through the season. But a great start for Old Glory.
Yeah, Stephen, you're chomping at the bit.
Yeah, I just can't name them. I can't call them that. So it's Austin. Austin's Austin, right?
Gilgronis. It goes with your suit. It goes with your whole.
But
he's the poster boy for the Gilgroni ad, ladies and gentlemen, right here with a glass. Steve, come on, who's kidding who?
Who's kidding who? Anyway, one thing they do have going for them is McBurn, though. Should they not be successful as a team this year, you're going to see a bunch of players who are really improved individually as rugby players. McBurn is, in my mind, the best skills coach on the planet. He worked with the Wallabies, worked with the All Blacks, tremendous resume. He's been brought in there. I think he might struggle a little bit with the GM side of it, the director of rugby side, just because he doesn't know American rugby that well. He's had some experience here. But just in terms of pure rugby knowledge, those guys are going to benefit big time from his presence.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. We had another one of our 0-3 teams with a collective few, and we had Mathew Drew Turner on, Bryan. Seattle finally getting that win.
I think we all expected them to back themselves up at home, especially with Ben Seaman back at 10. What a difference he made for them, both with his open field play and his goal kicking. Peter Tiberio coming out of retirement and getting the try right away. So a great performance from them. And an entertaining game. The Free Jacks didn't give anything away. Rocket start. So really great, exciting game. Good to see the defending champions getting that win, and looking forward to them playing this week.
And Bryan, New England's close to Canada, so do you have any intel on Ty Gleader?
I don't. He took that head knock, that big collision against Rooney with Will Leonard. So he's just been out. He's been listed as day-to-day, so hopefully he'll be back this week, maybe.
Steve, Seattle, that final score is not indicative of the actual tension in that match. They were down 14-zip at home, then Seattle came back, but that was not an easy win.
So let's look at it from a New England perspective. Okay, they came out week one, fantastic victory over New York and Vegas, and since then they've been on the road, and now they've been punched in the face repeatedly. So this is an interesting time for them. This is going to test their mettle. 4 games in, and the momentum's going the other way. Good signing, as you guys alluded to earlier, Ben Landry coming in. That's a real big pickup, back five, versatile back five player. But just as winning close games on the road does you a lot of good, losing games on the road close when you're in it and don't quite finish it can get really disheartening.
I don't think that's going to happen yet with New England, but it's still early in the season. But you're right. These things can come back to haunt them. But Bryan, the Arrows, your boys, in Atlanta. And you got a Lucy for Atlanta. He's one of your Canuck guys. A little tight. Come back win.
Yeah, a couple Canucks down there. Matt Heaton, the co-captain, Connor Keys. And you can see them getting a little bit mouthy with their mates from the Arrows. But a little bit of man management, gamesmanship almost from the Arrows. Second half, they bring on Lucas Rumble and Andrew Quattrin and Rob Brower, his first appearance of the season. So those guys really took it to ATL in the scrum the second half. They just turned up the juice, and got away. And a big bonus point win. I have to give a nod to the South Americans getting it done, scoring all 4 tries in that one. So a great game for me to watch, and a competitive one, a little bit closer than I think the score showed in that one.
A couple of times I saw Rob Brower's eyes bulging wide open as he was able to counter-ruck some backs trying to set platforms and just lighting them up. But Toronto, can they go undefeated on the season?
They can, but they won't. I think they're in great shape to finish top in the East, and I think they'll go deep. In fact, I would take them in the final to make the final. But I think over a 16-game season now, you're going to have an off week. You're going to hit a couple of injuries along the way, and you're going to hit a bump, and it's not the end of the world. It's when it comes. So I think they might drop 1 or 2, but I think Toronto will be right up there. At the final whistle.
And speaking of the final whistle, we have our final match. We have Rooney going down to that very nice stadium for the Houston SaberCats. Bryan, is Rooney starting to click? Are they putting it together? Are they going to be in there in the Final Four?
It reminds me of last year. I just thought they were the kind of team that didn't really look at their best, but could still get wins. And I think this is another one of those games. I thought the Roosters were lucky not to get a yellow card. They gave away a lot of penalties. But they knuckle down. They make some big plays. Marcus Walsh getting that bonus point try at the end is big for them. Hanko, a big game from him. So a good win for them on the road against a tricky Houston side that isn't really firing in all cylinders right now.
Yeah, as Dan Power pointed out, they can't keep relying on Sam Windsor. And if he wasn't in that lineup last week, they'd have absolutely no offense. But Rooney, going back to the butcher with the rolling maul for a try, taking a page out of last year. And now Bastereau penetrating inside deep and taking in a couple of defenders and an offload. Maybe that's something we're going to see more. Offload for a try.
Yeah, so conversely, as we said about losing narrow ones, they've now won 3 narrow ones on the road, having got punched in the face first week. So I think there's definitely more to come from New York. I don't think they're quite settled yet. I know they're not really quite settled yet in terms of selection. They've been missing a couple of players, still some players out with visas and what have you. I think they will improve. I think they're only going to get better.
All right, guys, hold that thought. We got to take a quick break, and we'll be back with predictions.
Been blind since I was 4, and I've never seen a beer commercial or a beer label. None of that stuff influences me. I drink beer because of the taste, and my beer's Pabst Blue Ribbon. It has the taste and the flavor.
What do you think's on the label?
I think there's a A naked woman? Riding on a unicorn? Jumping over fire? Oh, that's good beer.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Matt McCarthy and Steve Lewis, along with Bryan Ray, in Midtown Manhattan talking rugby. Buddy, you can see that this is now Colby Marshall, the interloper, who's here again in Steve's seat. So before we bring those guys back, Colby, take it away.
Yeah, I got 3 things to say, and one's my player of the week, and that's Ma Nanu coming from San Diego Legion. I mean, considering the fact that Legion looked like they were about to lose their first match of the year, Ma Nanu had 2 tries, one big in the second half that started their comeback and eventually completed their comeback. So he's my player of the weekend. Player to watch moving forward is newly acquired free agent Ben Landry by the New England Free Jacks. He's a big body, veteran player, has international experience, and he can play multiple positions. You can throw him in the second row, or he can play on the blind side flank. So it'll be interesting to see if he can be a boost for this New England team, who's really better than what their record suggests. And number 3, my best player in a losing effort has got to go to John Poland, number 9 from New England. I mean, he had the try of the week, the nice kick to himself, ran for about 30 meters, and he's my best player in a losing effort.
All right, now get the hell out of the studio. Let's bring back Steve and Bryan right after this.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
All right, Steve and Bryan. Big slate of games once again in Major League Rugby. There's no ARCs interrupting this. No America's Rugby Championships. They've been shifted to July. Toronto, Bryan, at Colorado. What do you think?
Yeah, the trick here is going to be recovery for the Arrows. It's a short turnaround, Sunday to Friday. They're doing a good thing. They're staying down in the States, training in Atlanta right now, so I think that's going to help them. So I'm going to pick the Arrows, but I think this is going to be a tough match against a revitalized Raptors down in Infinity Park.
I concur with those sentiments.
So I think collectively we're picking the Arrows at 5-0. I think the Arrows will win this one by 9, but I think the Raptors are on the right track and coming back strong. So Linda Cassidy, I'm still a fan. Saturday, New England at NOLA. Stephen.
Going to go with the home team here. This is a big week for New England. They had that great start. They have some great players, good coaching, fantastic backroom setup. But the game is played on the field, and they're now going into week 5, 1-3. And I think your question earlier about leader, if he's back, he is the leader, would make a big difference. So hopefully he's back from that early season concussion.
I'm going to go with Nola at home in a tight match. Again, like you say, we don't know if leader's going to be there. Is Ben Landry going to show up in the New England's lineup straight after signing? So, there's a lot of variables in this one. So I'm going to go with Nola.
I'm going to go with the home cooking and the healthier team at key positions in NOLA. Next one up, Warriors at Seattle.
Yeah, I got to go with the champions in this one. Seattle have got their swagger back a bit. I think there's an injury cloud over Hagen Schulte, the goal kicker for Utah, and that'd be a blow, even though Robbie Povey can step in and kind of challenge the gain line a little more. But, got to go with Seattle at home in this one.
Seattle, home win.
Seattle home win, no question.
No disrespect to Utah, but just in terms of personnel, Seattle are loaded.
Yeah, I'm going with Seattle by at least 15 points in this one. I picked Utah here on the last show, and I'm still drinking the Utah juice a little bit, but not as much. But I'm going with Seattle. The AGs at the SaberCats, the Texas Derby. Bryan.
I'm going to go with Houston in this one. I think they're due for a performance. Hopefully they'll get a couple more bodies in their lineup. Going to go with the SaberCats in the Battle of Texas.
SaberCats over Austin.
The Gilgronis.
Austin.
You have to embrace that. You will be getting ads and
unless someone buys me a couple of Gilgronis, I'm not going to say it.
I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think that's in your future. I'm going with Houston. Houston SaberCats by 8 points in this one. Then we've got ATL at DC, an intriguing matchup of two new teams, and this is a rivalry. They're not far from each other. Bryan, you're the Canadian objective interpreter of all things Major League Rugby. What do you think of this one?
Really intriguing match. Maybe one of the more interesting ones of the week. A lot of momentum behind Old Glory playing at home too. So if they have the Beast back in the lineup, I kind of like their chances. If not, maybe ATL. This is a coin toss one for me. I'm going to go with Old Glory at home.
I think Old Glory have gone well, but I think they're overperforming. So I think Atlanta will sneak this one out. I've got a high regard for Scott Lawrence as a coach. I know quite a lot of those players. They spend a bit of time together. I know their sort of work ethic. They're a good young team. I think they're only going to progress as the season goes on. So I'm going to take Atlanta in a squeaker.
I'm going to go home cooking. I'm going with Old Glory. Last one up. You've got Rooney at San Diego.
I have to lean towards San Diego without seeing the lineups right now, but this is going to be a great match to close out the week. Really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to be at the game, so I'm going back to San Diego. So I'll be at the San Diego Rooney game next Sunday night at Torero Stadium. Can't wait. I'm going to Chula Vista the week afterwards.
Is he ever home, ladies and gentlemen? He teases us. He comes in and he leaves.
Jamaica women's sevens at Chula Vista. So I'm going to be there. I think San Diego are going to win.
I was in San Diego. I went down to their training session. They're impressive. But I think Rooney steals this one on the road in a squeaky bum 4-point differential. And clearly, we are running out of time as per our producers in the studio. And there you have it. More Major League Rugby on Rugby Wrap-Up from Midtown Manhattan. On behalf of Mr. Steve Lewis and Mr. Bryan Ray, I'm Matt McCarthy, signing off.